Lawsome by ConsultWebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Hello, Lawsome listeners. Today on the show, I'm excited to be talking with Mitch Jackson, an author, trial lawyer, private mediator, and legal tech innovator. Mitch has been passionately helping personal injury clients for the past 35 years. His role as a mediator involves transforming conflicts into effective collaborations with the goal of helping good people resolve challenging problems. Due to Mitch's outstanding legal skills, he was awarded the California Litigation Lawyer of the Year in 2013 and Orange County Trial Lawyer of the Year in 2009. He's also the author of the book, The Mediator's Handbook, Turning Conflict into Collaborations. Today's topic is one of the most talked about in all industries, including the legal sector, and that's AI, artificial intelligence. To be more specific, we're going to cover insights into how AI is shaping the modern legal practice. Very exciting topic, and Mitch, excited to have you. Thanks for joining the show today.
Tanner, I feel like I should be interviewing you. This is so exciting to be a lawyer, to be alive in today's world. There's so much going on, and it was great seeing you a couple of weeks ago in Nashville. I enjoyed chatting. I wish we had more time, but I'm excited about today's show because this technology is changing everything, and we're all trying to figure it out together, right?
That's exactly right, and grateful for you. I mean, you've been on the front lines here, not just in this specific topic, AI, but I've seen you year after year. I've known you for, I guess, over a decade, Mitch, but I've seen you on the front lines here, testing technology out, working to find ways to weave it into your practice and serve your clients better. And that's really the reason we brought you on the show, because this is a hot topic. And the challenge, I think, for most lawyers, if they're going to admit it, is that at what point does it stop? It just seems like we're constantly evolving and trying to catch up. And that seems to be where the legal vertical sits right now, just doing everything they can to stay up to date with where tech is. So you, someone who's been clearly involved in this, a huge, strong advocate when it comes to integrating technology into your practice, maybe let's start by you sharing what has sparked your interest in the field of AI to begin with. Specifically, there's a new tool, a new feature available called GPT-4 Vision, and I'd like you to hit on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's just start right there. And you said a couple of things in your introduction that I really want to focus on, and that is, look, as much as what's changed already in the legal profession over the last 20 or 30 years when it comes to using technology. I mean, you're talking to somebody that walked into a courtroom back in the late 80s with what was called a laptop. And during the morning break, while the jury's out, grabbing a cup of coffee and using the bathroom, I was setting my laptop up to give an opening argument when they returned using not PowerPoint, but I think it might have been before PowerPoint, but that type of big overhead, presentation. And the judge looks at me and goes, "Mr. Jackson, what are you doing?" And I explained what I was doing. He goes, You're not using that in my courtroom. That's it's just not going to happen." And fast forward to today, imagine walking into a courtroom or a law firm and not having technology available to help all of us be better and faster and to create better client experiences. As much as everything has changed over the last 25 or 30 years, Tanner, we are just getting started. Okay. The good news is a lot has changed. The bad news is, folks, we are just getting started with AI, with Web3, with the metaverse. And what we're doing with ChatGPT and other AI platforms, specifically visual, which just rolled out over the last 2 or 3 weeks, is it's allowing us to leverage the power of artificial intelligence to make better decisions, to create better client experiences. When I'm a mediator, to help facilitate impasses with, in real time, asking ChatGPT to share 4 or 5 open-ended questions that I can come back into a Zoom with or come back into a conference room with based upon the facts and circumstances, issues, personalities of the lawyers, personalities of the parties, and really get the conversation moving forward towards resolution. GPT-4 Vision, which you reference, is a new tool. Whether we're using it with our phone, just taking a picture, or uploading a photograph onto our laptop or desktop from within ChatGPT-4, it allows you to analyze that particular image. For example, If I am sitting in an arbitration, mediation, or trial, opposing counsel or expert witness on a whiteboard writes out a formula or shows me a diagram of an accident scene or maybe a algorithm coding to support their client's position, you can literally just take a picture with your phone, and with the right prompt that you have ahead of time, within 15 to 30 seconds, you can do an analysis as to whether or not it's accurate, whether or not there are some mistakes in the code, and what questions you may want to ask to follow up, all from a single photograph. No text, no other audio input. It's right there. It's working. It's powerful. I actually shared a couple of blog posts on LinkedIn last week and this week, Tanner, on just that case. One of the posts, and I made a couple of notes because I think it really does show lawyers how to use this technology. Yeah. And by the way, just reach out and stop me when you want me to stop talking, but I think this is relevant to the conversation. I shared a post on my LinkedIn newsletter last week, and it was how to use images in AI to help you win your case. And it specifically dives deep on GPT-4, which you and I are referring to as vision. And I took the exploding Ford gas tank case and diagrams of the Ford gas tank and how the car was designed, shared some things from the actual case, and then approaching those facts through today's GPT-4 vision lens. If I had just taken a picture of the Ford chassis and gas tank design and asked the right questions, I shared the response. It immediately allowed me within, I'm going to say 2 or 3 minutes, to have access to some of the best biomechanical and structural engineers in the automotive industry to tell me the 5 things that were wrong with this design. And guess what? It was spot on. It was spot on. And so these are the things I think that vision brings to the table for lawyers, whether you're taking a picture of a case citation, whether you're taking a picture of a written case that's in front of you, and then asking GPT-4 to analyze it. And you can do it instantly. It's amazingly accurate, and it's only going to get better over time.
And in the amount of time, I can imagine. I've never practiced law. I'm certainly not a trial lawyer, but I know you have plenty of experience in that realm. I mean, if you had to take a wild guess, how much time is that saving you just in that exercise that you gave there related to the Ford Pinto case?
Well, I think I mentioned in the blog post, it's something like weeks or months. I mean, literally, because back in the day, we used to have to retain experts, bring them in, have them analyze whatever's in front of them to render an opinion. Right now, that information's literally within seconds away. So it allows you to be better and faster. It allows you to focus on what's important, integrating the human aspect of an opening statement, a cross-examination, or a closing argument into what you're doing. And or as of this week, we're now able to easily upload PDF documents into GPT-4. And we could do that in the past using plugins, but their new rollout is something that's going to change everything. It allows you to take a Word document, a PDF document, an image, the things that we're talking about, and instantly analyze those documents. What do I mean by that? Well, I think what's interesting is everyone can probably remember the Andy Warhol copyright case that was going before the US Supreme Court. And it was a big IP case that came down, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. Before the case came down, we fed all the appellate briefs via PDFs into a GPT-4 AI system. And we asked the system, based upon the current Supreme Court justices, based upon their past rulings, and once again, AI pulls all of this into it, what do you think is going to happen in this case? And it took about 45 seconds. It analyzed two 90-page appellate briefs from both sides, and it came out with a response that was almost identical to what the U.S. Supreme Court ended up ruling on later that afternoon. Wow. We all knew it was going to drop, right? Mm-hmm. A follow-up case, the Jack Daniel case, was going to be based upon some of the same issues. We did the same thing. Couple weeks or a couple months later, I really don't remember, when the Jack Daniels case came down, guess what? the findings of AI were almost identical to what the US Supreme Court ruled. So it's amazing how much data it relies upon in order to formulate the response that a lawyer can place a certain level of weight on. But then once again, you want to do your own due diligence. You want to be careful with what you rely upon. And those are just a couple of examples, Tanner, of how we're leveraging this technology right now to learn, to be better lawyers, and to provide better results for our clients.
Yeah, great examples, Mitch. And I mean, really, the sky's the limit. And I'm sure as you are using this technology more and more, it's creating more ideas in your own head. And so I'd be curious, what advice or what encouragement would you give someone who maybe hasn't even started to dip a toe into this? What's the best way to actually get familiar with this type of technology?
First of all, understand this is not rocket science for the user, for us. If it was, I wouldn't have a clue as to what's going on. If I can do this, anybody can do this. Go ahead and sign up for a free GPT-3 account. Go to openai.com, and get your account set up. It's going to take you a minute or two, and it's a free account. Start playing around with it. Start asking questions. Start using it and get an idea as to how you can use this, whether it's in research, whether it's in rewriting your existing content. For example, Tanner, we have a very simple prompt that's just gold. If I'm writing an email, if I'm responding to a social media prompt, if I'm doing something a little bit longer and I want to make sure the spelling and grammar is correct, and I actually took the liberty of writing some of these down for your audience, what we do is we go ahead and just copy our content, our email, our letter, our social media post into, and I use GPT-4. It's $25 a month. I'm not really sure. And what we do is we place it beneath the following prompt. This is how easy it is. The prompt reads, correct spelling and grammar errors. Do not modify the style or substance except in minor ways intended to make the content easier to read and understand. We then copy and paste our content beneath it. What it basically does is a grammar and spelling check, and you might see one or two words be omitted or added or something phrased a little bit different, but it's not rewritten. It's just better. That simple prompt right there will help you avoid silly mistakes, especially when we're busy, right? That's how easy it is to use. Obviously, you can dive a lot deeper and have it do research. You can include headings, you can include personalities. I can have something written in Tanner's writing style if I choose to do so. The sky's the limit, and it's just a matter of using your imagination, using the resources out there to come up with new ideas as a lawyer, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to leverage this technology to stand out above all the noise of your competition.
Thank you for that. And I'd like to address maybe a topic that potentially has been used as more fear-mongering, but certainly legitimate, and that's around the ethical considerations when using this type of technology, specifically GPT-4 Vision or anything related to GPT-4. I'm curious to hear your stance on this. What should lawyers keep in mind to avoid any kind of ethical concerns, given that this is also in the news alongside of all the positives that come with this technology?
Great question. I think what we need to do is understand, just like with the internet, with social media, with digital, the ethical canons and rules that apply offline apply online too. So be aware of what information you're putting into the system. When it comes to private client confidential information, there are some AI services through their API that claim that whatever you put in is private, okay? However, if you read the terms of service agreement with OpenAI's GPT and GPT-4, that may not necessarily be the case. So what we do is we redact personal information. If we're doing a medical record summary and we're uploading several hundred pages of hospital records into the system to do a one-paragraph review that we can copy and paste into a demand. And by the way, that's a huge time saver. We make sure that we omit all of the client's personal information before anything gets uploaded into the system. The other big issue has to do with intellectual property right violations. In other words, are you generating content through these systems that is coming from copyrighted material? Does that expose you to a copyright infringement violation lawsuit? You want to be careful. Was there sufficient transformation of what Midjourney or Dolly, which are two services that we use and you probably use, to create images, to complement our blog posts, to complement our marketing? Are you using images that were protected by intellectual property, and have you violated someone's IP rights? So you need to do your due diligence with all the above. And I think when it comes to lawyers looking at, the ethics aspect of what we're talking about, it's interesting that you would bring this up, because Monday morning, my newsletter that dropped, and this is a total coincidence, but it's spot on, Tanner. I wrote a newsletter that was called "The Ethics of AI: Can We Trust Machines to Do What's Right?" And here's what I did. I took the American Bar Association Model Rules of Professional Conduct, and I used a prompt that I created, and I wrote to ask it whether or not we could use the ABA Model Rules of Conduct as a template or guideline to help us with our ethics issues with AI. And it's an amazingly similar type of approach, mindset, and goal that we're trying to achieve. And I think what you're going to find is the AI helped us use the ABA rules as a template for ethics in the AI space. Later on yesterday afternoon, the Biden administration came out with an executive order to try to wrap our arms around the ethics aspects of individuals and companies using AI. We took that Biden executive order, we fed it into the AI system, Tanner, and we said, "You're an AI. What do you think of this executive order? This is going to affect you as the AI. I want to know what you think." And it created just a very provocative post from an AI's perspective of the good and bad of what this executive order was proposing. So those are two fun ways to kind of use the platform to see what its capabilities are. But here's the fun part. It's also a really fast way to create new content you can share in the digital platforms to help build your brand, to help show that you're a thought leader, to help, answer consumers' questions on these very topics. And that's exactly why I dived into these two issues, because people were talking about the ethics at the Clio convention. When I came back, I started writing articles about that. And then when I realized the Biden administration was going to drop the executive order, I went ahead and doubled down. I did a couple of additional articles, which really have gotten a lot of traction on all the major platforms. So long answer to a short question, but I want everyone to know this isn't just about practicing law. It's about marketing and building our brands. I'm sure when it comes to SEO and things like this, there's all kinds of ways that you're using, artificial intelligence to get faster and better results. And so, I'm learning something new every single day, but those are real life examples for anyone listening or watching as to how you can leverage AI right now, this afternoon, to start separating yourself, from all the competitors locally, nationally, and globally.
And as you were saying that, Mitch, I'm thinking in my head, like you are such a strong marketer. You're just as good of a marketer as you are a lawyer when it comes to that, because you're right. You're adding value. You're utilizing the technology. You're shortlining, the time it takes to be able to produce it. And you're finding ways to recycle it as well. So you're hitting all of those check boxes, and I absolutely love it. And you're absolutely giving some tremendous guidance too for our listeners, and we're grateful for that. Before we move on from this topic, I'd like to spend just a moment here, because I'd like to dive in a little bit further, specifically around leveraging it and avoiding ethical issues. Specifically, the whole idea of in testing out ChatGPT 4 in particular, and just evaluating the content it produces, it's said to sometimes hallucinate content, or simply just, if it doesn't have access to it, it'll sometimes make information up. It's also been said to possibly have certain biases toward toward different things. And so I'm curious to see if you've thought through this process, or you thought through this, and specifically around legal proceedings, have you considered what safeguards should be put in place to avoid unbiased outcomes when it comes to leveraging this type of technology?
You just described the standard, attitude when you and I walk into a local bar association meeting. We walk into a meeting and we're surrounded by people that do everything you just said. We have people that don't do their legal research carefully enough, and they're citing incorrect case law to a judge, but nobody talks about it too much. We talk about people that are biased, prejudiced, not looking through the same lens as maybe their client or a jury for whatever societal reasons. And as part of being a human being, it's good and bad depending on which side of the coin you're on. I was in court, it's been about a month now, I think it was before Clio, where opposing counsel at the other end of the counsel table was citing bad law to the judge. And I think, he was probably more interested in making his tee off time that afternoon than really going back and fixing the problem. I know who this is. It's fine, whatever. The thing about AI is constantly improving. It's constantly getting better. And a lot of the hallucinations, which for me are far and few between, I see 9 times out of 10, it's an accurate response. Once or twice out of 10, there's something that requires a little bit more due diligence. I see it training itself so that a year from now, when we look back, these factors are going to be resolved to a higher level than if we just had a room full of humans trying to fix this, because they have different things going on in their lives. One of the ethics canons and rules that I talked about yesterday in my article had to do with prejudice. It had to do with equality. It had to do with, it's the old garbage in, garbage out type of scenario we've always dealt with computers. And one of the things that we're looking at is if there are some type of reasonable regulations guiding the development of the large language models, the data sets, everyone, that AI looks at to analyze and then provide a response from, if there are requirements that the data that's put in is accurate, objective, takes all of the things that you mentioned, Tanner, into consideration, then we're going to get better, more valuable and consistent responses or outputs. It is something that I think lawyers, specifically lawyers, need to pay attention to. A lot of us, that's why we're doing what we do for a living. We're fighting for equality and due process and justice. I became a lawyer to take on the wrongdoers. I became a lawyer to take on the corporate bullies in the world. And I think this is a tool that's going to help good lawyers become great lawyers, and bad lawyers eventually probably be looking for another thing to do with their time. Because if you're not, the train has left the station when it comes to AI. And if you're not leveraging and learning this technology, you're going to look back in a couple of years and you're just going to see the caboose in the distance pulling away from you, right? So there are a lot of issues, but I see these issues as being relatively insignificant when you look at the upside benefits that this new technology is bringing, especially the parts of this technology that you and I are talking about today.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that point. I mean, essentially you're saying hitch onto this train or be left behind, and I think that's a fair warning. I would agree with that, and anyone listening may hear that and start to scratch their head on how in the world do I begin to implement this, many of which are not, let's just be honest, they're not like you, Mitch. They're not all technologically savvy. Maybe they don't have a passion for this, but we still agree it's critical to be implementing into a business in order to stay ahead and remain competitive. So if you don't mind, I'd like to land the plane with this one and get practical with these lawyers, knowing specifically you've been through this, you've walked through the trenches, and you found success in this. What guidance or encouragement would you give a lawyer who may be hesitant to pursue this, given that they're already up to their eyeballs in caseload and trial work ahead of them? How do they begin to do it? Do they try to learn it themselves? Do they try to identify a key point person within their office? Do they outsource this? How do they even begin to take that first step?
It's so new that I think the managing partner of the firm, for example, whoever's watching this, you need to take time and start learning it yourself. In other words, just start with GPT 3 or 4 and play around with the service on your own time and get a feel for it. The reason that's important is because the biggest challenges I see, especially when it comes to liability and litigation, is when you have law firm team members, employees, paralegals, secretaries, law clerks using this technology the wrong way. Okay, and when they use it the wrong way and they're using the output the wrong way, whether it's bad case law, which, by the way, Tanner, like you and I were talking about, it's very convincing. It looks like a real case is being cited, and it's not. Or maybe someone's generating marketing material to use on local advertising, but it's protected by intellectual property. They're not aware of these legal issues, and so things happen that result in exposure to the firm. If the managing partner or senior partners are aware of what's going on, they can advise their team as to what they should or should not be using AI for, especially over the next couple of years while all of these issues are being worked out. Having said that, once you put those issues aside, we settled the case, but we had a case, a wrongful death case, and a very conservative verdict and venue. I'm sorry. And I've tried a lot of cases. I'm pretty good at picking a jury, but I thought, I'm going to go ahead and put together some creative prompts and ask AI to help me create some open-ended questions to ask my potential jurors during voir dire to make sure I've got the right butts in the seat based upon this venue, based upon this venue's politics, based upon some news that came out of that venue. And that's what I did. And I got to tell you, it gave me questions. It gave me issues to double down on and focus on that I hadn't thought about. Like if I was picking that jury, these are the kinds of questions that I would want to ask a jury and have conversations with. That right there should be enough incentive for anyone that's trying cases or mediating cases or arbitrating cases. You can use it to give you ideas. You can actually put in a generic version of your case, or you can block out and black out, personal information and upload a PDF, trial briefs, points and authorities from opposing counsel, whatever you want to do, and you can run questions through GPT. Give me 10 things that were not addressed in opposing counsel's points and authorities. Provide me with 5 questions I need to raise with their expert on cross-examination in order to punch holes in their case. That's the way you ask these questions. You look at the response and then you can say, Tanner, these look really well. These look very good. Give me 50 more open-ended questions on the same topic. And in 45 seconds, you're going to have an answer. I guarantee you out of those 45 or 50 open-ended questions, there's going to be 5 or 10 you never even thought of. And even if you had spent hours trying to come up with something, these are the ways we're using it. It's to brainstorm. It's to come up with new ideas. It's to improve all of the templates in our office, whether it's email, whether it's text, whether it's legal pleadings, whether it's demands. You can use this technology with the correct prompts to write better content, both for your clients or in your marketing. Let me share real quick, and I think this is really important because people go, well, what do you mean by prompt? Like, how do you write a prompt? This is a prompt template that I'll use for almost anything. And once I read it to you, I think your listeners will understand where I'm coming from. So this is the prompt that we have in a Word document or in our notes someplace. You just copy it and paste it over into GPT 3 or 4. It reads as follows. Completely rewrite the following article in each paragraph to avoid copying and plagiarism issues. Do so without changing the topic or the meaning. Use a style that raises and agitates problems and issues and then offers concise solutions. Keep the reader engaged by asking an occasional question of the reader throughout every other paragraph in the article. Write in a style that is concise, powerful, confident, action-oriented, and pragmatic with accessible takeaways. Write in an easy to read and understand style that a high school freshman would be able to understand. Now, there's your template. So if it's a chapter from my book that I'm putting in to repurpose for a blog post or to upload for a podcast and have the podcast create a new audio, I'm going to delete where it says avoid copying and plagiarism issues. If I'm importing the Biden executive order and asking GPT to analyze it or rephrase it, I'll leave that sentence in, because the last thing I ever want to do is copy or plagiarize someone else's work. Once you start playing around with this, what you'll find is you can substantially change the input by the time it's outputted, so that there's no issues with respect to plagiarism. What you can do is you can add into this template, use humor, tell a story, use one of the 5 predominant storytelling techniques, such as the hero's journey, to create this post. Write this post as a conversation between Tanner and Mitch, with Tanner winning at the end. You can take this type of content and create almost anything that you want that results in a unique and different and entertaining and provocative and persuasive output. So a lot of the things I just mentioned, I wouldn't worry about in a court of law, but oftentimes when we're doing blog posts, this is what we do. For example, my daughter just got me interested in the Netflix series Suits. Dad, have you been watching? I haven't watched it. Okay, now I can't stop watching it. It's outstanding. In fact, I downloaded it on my phone when I flew out to Nashville for Clio, and I couldn't stop binge watching it. And so what I did is I wrote an article. I forgot what the topic was, but I think it was something to do with communication. And I asked GPT to create a back and forth between Harvey Specter and Lewis on a particular issue. And I told GPT, use their speaking styles, incorporate their personalities into the article or into the blog post, whatever it was. Long story short, what it came up with was a very good back and forth between Harvey and Lewis. The people recognized the terms they were using. They recognized the references with respect to Lewis's mud baths, which I hadn't even gotten to that episode yet in the series. And you tweak it a little bit, double check it, do your due diligence, make sure it's okay. And then I put it out there, and everyone just loved the article. So you can have fun using this type of prompt as your foundation and then build upon it.
That's so creative. And Mitch, you've given so many practical ways to leverage it. I mean, clearly you've been using it enough to where if you start in the infancy stage, you're just learning it, right? You're getting used to it, and then the sky's the limit, truly, on layering on your own personality and your own creativity. So I love that. It's honestly been one of the most practical discussions I've had around Chat GPT. So thank you for that, or GPT-4 in particular. I'm curious, as we wrap up, Mitch, any questions you would have wished I would have asked you, or any topics you would have hoped to have covered that we didn't?
I'll tell you what, we, at the panel at Clio, we had standing room only, which was exciting. I was on, I had 2 people on each side of me that were a lot smarter about this stuff than I am. I was there to talk about the practical side of it, right? As a trial lawyer, how can we use this? And how are we using it to build relationships? I think that what I would just suggest to everybody is start playing around with it on your own. The first time you dive into it doesn't have to be in response to create a legal pleading or a closing argument. Have some fun with it. Use the prompts that we talked about. To be honest with you, Tanner, I think you covered, and helped shine a light on this new technology. I want everyone to understand that as of this week, while we're shooting this show, GPT-4, OpenAI is rolling out a whole new update that's going to allow everybody to use almost any type of content to do an analysis on. People are taking pictures, Tanner, of a diagram and then asking GPT-4, write the code based upon this picture to create a website. Okay, it's like, and you can copy and paste that code into a WordPress website, and it creates a website for you. I would say whatever challenges that you have as a lawyer, if your writing skills aren't that great, use GPT-4 to help create better content when it comes to writing. I think that if there are things that you don't enjoy doing, you're good at it, but you just rather delegate it out to someone else in the firm, think about doing a Google search, go onto YouTube, do a search, and see if anyone else has already figured out how to use AI to fix that problem. And then leverage AI to fix that problem for you. I think these are the things that what I'm using it for may be different than what you would use it for. It'll be different than what my partner's using it for or my clients. So figure out what challenges do you have, and then spend a little bit of time. In fact, ask GPT-4, how can I solve this problem? And it'll give you answers. And you can say, dive deeper on item number 3. What do you mean by that? How long will it take? Give me a schedule that I can follow, spending 1 hour a week to accomplish that particular goal. You can use it as your private assistant, an assistant that's smarter than anybody you and I have ever met on the face of the planet, to help hold your hand and get you from A to Z on whatever the issue is. So
and less expensive as well.
Unbelievable. Isn't it unbelievable? I mean, It's just, it's right there. There's also, you and I have some mutual friends that have companies who are leveraging this AI technology right now. They're doing some amazing things. And I would suggest, if anyone's interested in using AI to do detailed legal case research, reach out to Tanner or me, and we can share some names of some friends that are building some pretty amazing services that allow you to do just that. When it comes to creating templates, emails, text documents, there are a couple of services out there where you just click a couple of buttons and it analyzes your email and creates an instant response all ready for you to click send on. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. My takeaway, Tanner, is I really feel like it's important to leverage this technology so that your human interaction, the human to human aspect of who we are and what we do as lawyers, can be improved upon. I'm not in favor of supplementing what I do by AI. I'm in favor of having AI complement my strengths and weaknesses as a lawyer to get better results faster while creating better client experiences. And I've used that term a couple of times because I think the lawyers that focus on AI for those purposes are the lawyers that are going to find success moving forward in time.
I agree. Mitch, for those who are interested in contacting you or finding you, what's the best way that they can reach you online?
As you know, I'm all over the place on digital and social, but I think the best place, we have a list of all of my companies and newsletters and podcasts and services. If you go to mitchjackson.xyz, mitchjackson.xyz, that'll help you stay connected. I just love interacting with other amazing human beings that are interested in Web3, AI, and the metaverse, not to mention the law, business, and being an entrepreneur. So I'm here for you and your community. And Tanner, it was a pleasure being on today. This was a fun conversation.
Well, you were a fantastic guest. So thank you for joining us. And it's a big thanks from all of our listeners as well. Looking forward to the next one already, Mitch.
My pleasure.
Lawsome by ConsultWebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next Lawsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.